Super Rugby round 18, the Saturday games are all in the bag. So the playoff spots have been decided. Interesting set of games. I will start with the first one, reluctantly. So this game didn't have anything riding on it. The Hurricanes had already secured fourth spot. Blues, nothing doing, but still a bit of a play for pride game. Hurricanes playing something of a B team. See if the Blues can finish the season on a high. 29-24, they have gone down to the Hurricanes. It actually started relatively well for the Blues. They had a penalty early on, turned down 3, and eventually scored a try. Teddy Black had a nice little fake pump, and Talea went over for a try, 10-zip. The Canes put some pressure on the Blues later on, about 5 meters out. They tapped it, and Dane Coles knocked it on immediately. Pulu tripped himself up one point, and as he was trying to set up a little run, so it was all over the place. And at one point, Teddy Black even kept Kane's penalty from hitting touch by kind of leaning over the sideline and flicking it back in. So it was all go, and then 36 minutes, Caleb Clark gets a try from a scrum move. He just punches straight through, and it's 17-0 to the Blues. Immediately after, though, Peter Umaga Jensen scores a try, and it was Clark actually who missed the tackle there. So, 17 points to 5, and then end of the first half, Nanai with a pretty big step on Ben Lam. Many phases after Rico Ioane had set up a little line break, and the Blues had the lead 24 points to 5 at half time. Everything was looking pretty peachy. Hurricanes brought on some subs, some of their bigger guns, and that's when it went wrong for the Blues. 44 minutes, Fletcher Smith gets a try. Jackson Garden-Bishop chipped it, and it all came from a ruck turnover. So quick thinking from the Hurricanes, 24-12. Walker Leawere got a try. It started with another chip kick to Fletcher Smith. It was 24-19. And then Peter Umaga Jensen, I think Fidel, the big prop, started things off. And then there was an offload, some passes. 26-24, the Canes went into the lead. And then Jackson Garden-Bishop finished it off with a penalty late on, 29 points to 24. So Blues didn't score any points in that second half. Yep, they threw away a pretty big lead. So, the Blues' final play was a line out not straight, pretty much right on full time. So, that's the Blues done for the year. Hurricanes, it's not the first time now that they've kind of played their bench really well, so it's something they're doing very well. They're managing their side, and they're going to be a tough team to beat in the playoffs. This game, though, before we get to the playoffs, the Blues had more run meters, 513 to 457, but the Canes more possession, 53%, more territory, 56%. Interestingly, the Canes tackling was pretty poor, and I think most of that would have been in the first half, tackling at 75%. In the second half, they were obviously a lot better. I mean, they had 70% territory in the second half, so all over the Blues. The penalty count was 12-5, so the Blues definitely on the wrong side of the ref there. Blues finished the season 13th, above the Reds and the Sunwolves on 30 points. Hurricanes 4th, although second on points. They had finished with the most wins, even more wins than the Crusaders with that last win. And they will host the Bulls in a quarterfinal in Wellington next week, so that should be a pretty interesting game. We'll see how that goes. Disappointing from the Blues, to be honest, as a Blues fan. The next game, I didn't watch this one. I was kind of saving myself for the Stormers and Sharks game, which was a direct knockout match. There was nothing riding on this Brumbies Reds game, so I did go to bed early. It looks like it was a pretty interesting game from the highlights that I've seen. Reds got stuck in early with a try from Hegarty after a bit of pressure, 7-zip. McCann got a try, but it was eventually chalked off because Tupou put a hit on Liliafano. So that could have had a big influence over, I guess, the course of the game if that try had been awarded. But Tupou got a yellow card. Muirhead went over with advantage. Lilifano threw a cutout pass, and the Brumbies scored, so it was 5-7. They missed the conversion. 5-0 in the yellow card period. 30 minutes, Hegarty kicks a penalty to make it 10 points to 5, so Reds extend their lead, but then McCaffrey gets a try about 5 minutes later from a dominant scrum, to be fair, and it's 12-0, so the Brumbies take the lead. And then, was it right at the end of the... Yeah, end of the first half, the Brumbies got a penalty try, and Higginbotham got yellow carded, so... I guess it was for slowing the ball down at the ruck. They didn't show too much of it on the highlights that I saw. But yeah, it went into the break at 19 points to 10. Second half, Rory Arnold gets another try. He drives over some good power. Like 4 people were there, but he just went straight through. And that was 26-10. Tom Wright got an intercept try. Made it 33-10. So that was 14 points they conceded during that second yellow card. And 5 points in the first one. So it's 19 points the Reds shipped with a man down during this game. McGann, interestingly enough, kicks a drop goal when they're 23 points down to make it 33-13. Paia'awa gets a try from a Jock Campbell line break after a scrum 33-20, a scrum. But then the Brumbies get a try through Douglas after a line out, 40-20, and then Liam Wright gets a try for the Reds right at the end. About 3 minutes from the finish. He went probably good 8 or 9 meters, to be fair, so 40-27 is how it finished. Interestingly, the game finished with Big Carter kicking the ball out, so yeah, that's a good win for the Brumbies. That puts them... It's good because in recent years, I mean, there was one year where the Brumbies made the playoffs and they would have only like scraped through, I think, into 8th, and then the Hurricanes came over and did them in the quarterfinal. So they didn't seem like a legit playoff team. But this year they actually do. Like, they finish on 48 points, so they're third. I think they would have been 4th if it was not for the conference system. So I mean, well, they would have played different teams. You could argue the Brumbies wouldn't have finished as high in a different conference, but still, they've beaten some pretty decent teams in this run. So credit to the Brumbies. They're on a very good run. The Reds finished second bottom on 28. This game, Brumbies more run meters by about 100, 506 to 407. Reds, though, more possession, 54% and territory. But you look at the Brumbies' defence, man, 91% tackle rate, and that is like test match level, whereas the Reds 79%, which is pretty normal for Super Rugby. So the Brumbies will host the Sharks in a quarterfinal, which could be an interesting game. And that's the end of the season for the Reds, kind of finishing at the end, I think, where they were largely expected to finish. But they did show some glimpses of form during the season, like the Blues did. The next one, Stormers Sharks. Now, I made a point to watch this game because, as I said, it was kind of a do-or-die game for both teams. I wanted to see how it would go. And it was something of a test match style game. Like, compared to most of the games this week, like the Friday games were all blowouts. The Blues and the Hurricanes game was a game of 2 halves. The Brumbies game ended up being a bit of a blowout, and so did the final game. But this game was tight, and it was essentially like a knockout game, but starting a week early. So it's not a playoff game, but it was a playoff game. There was no Tendai Tawira. He pulled out after the captain's run yesterday, so that's disappointing. And there was a lot of guys getting hurt in this one. Yako Kutsia went off for a HIA early. He passed it, but then ended up, I think, having another one later and had to stay off. Pimpy went off for an HIA and he failed that, so he didn't come back. Game started with a lot of Sharks possession and territory. But yeah, they weren't able to score. Nobody was able to score for the first 20 minutes, and the Stormers opened it with a penalty on 22. The Stormers initially were trying to just go quick at every opportunity, although sometimes it was going a bit awry. 27 minutes, Rhino Smith pretty much goes coast to coast. I think it was Stunder who threw the pass and ended up going a bit low, and it hit Smith in the legs. He was able to kind of regather it and just go length of the field for a try. They missed the conversion, so that was the Sharks in the lead, 5 points to 3. Mbonambi got a yellow card for a forearm to the throat of one of the Sharks guys, and so he went off 10 minutes of the bin, but that 10 minutes was pretty much entirely scrum resets. So the Sharks weren't able to do anything with the man over. They went into halftime with like a minute left on the yellow card, and there'd been no scoring, nothing even close. Second half, Dan Dupree did a bit of a tip tackle on Engelbrecht, but they said penalty only. Stormers kicked it. It was 6 points to 5, so Stormers back in the lead. And then there were some kind of good moments. Sinatla did some good defense and managed to turn the Sharks guys over. Mbonambi did as well. The Sharks at one point had a penalty. They turned down the 3, went for a try, and it was Mbonambi who managed to get the saving turnover. There were a few handling errors from both sides, but it was a real pressure cooker game, I must say. 76 minutes, Jean-Luc Duplessis, who's come on for Stander, gets a penalty from a scrum, and that puts the Stormers out 9 points to 5, so the Sharks need a try or they're done. After the 80-minute mark, Lucanio after 15 phases, goes over for that try. Initially, like way back before those 15 phases, I thought the Sharks at one point might have knocked it on, but I didn't go back and rewatch it. But yeah, either way, it was 12 points to 9. It finished. So the Sharks ended up knocking the Stormers out. Like, if I could feel disappointed for that Blues team throwing away that lead in a nothing game against the Hurricanes, I can only imagine how Stormers fans feel after that one. You're leading right on the 80th minute, and the opposition scorer tried to take it away. So they'll be pretty disappointed. The Stormers end up finishing 10th on 35. The Sharks end up finishing 6th on 37 points. So yeah, Stormers are out. Sharks are through. Sharks had more run meters, 508 to 371. More possession, 55%. More territory, 55%. Higher tackling rate, 84% to 82%. So pretty close. But yeah, on paper, it looks like they were good value for their win. But at times, it just seemed like the Stormers were just kind of choking the life out of the Sharks, but they weren't able to get it done. The Sharks will go to Canberra to face the Brumbies, like I said, so that will be an interesting game. A bit of travel for the Sharks, but they do play well away from home. The last one. The Bulls and the Lions. So, I'm not sure what the situation was like before this game started. I know before any of the Saturday games, I think the Bulls just needed to not lose by 33 points, so they were virtually through. The Lions needed a bonus point at a minimum, or a win to send them through, and they didn't get it done. They did start well. Daimani got a try from a Dianti break at the kickoff, and it was 7-zip within a minute. It was like 13 or 15 seconds or something. But then the Bulls struck back through Liebenberg on about 3 minutes. He touched the bottom of the post after Warner had done a quick tap, so that was 7-all. Lions kicked the penalty on 4 minutes, take the lead back, 10 points to 7. But then the Bulls with a little maul set play. Van Staden went over for his try, 14 points to 10. Andreas Coetzee kicked the drop goal. First time I think I've seen him kick a drop goal. 14 points to 13. So you could see the Lions kind of just stay in touch, just stay in touch, just stay in touch. Like, don't let the score blow out, which is fair enough given what they needed. But then Gboka got his try. Good build-up play included Speckman. 21-13. That's getting into trouble for the Lions. And then Odendal, again from Speckman, who was out wide. 28 points to 13. And this is all within like half an hour, man. Like, the Bulls got a penalty, 31-13, and it's not even 25 minutes. The rate of scoring was ridiculous. And then the Lions started to chase the Bulls down. So 28 minutes, they get a penalty. 36 minutes, they get a penalty. Second half, 42 minutes, they get a penalty. So they're getting it back to 31-22, you know, kind of within touching distance. Then Snyman gets a yellow card after kind of a grass cutter tackle on Malcolm Marks, although apparently, because I didn't see this game in full, the ref said that there'd been a bit of a build-up of penalties, so that one was kind of the final straw. Then Brink goes over towards the end of that yellow card period, to be fair. So the Bulls did hold out for quite some time. It's a maul try, so it's 31-27. They missed the conversion. It's 5 points during the yellow card. I'm sure the Lions would have liked more. But they're back within touching distance. Then Hendricks gets a great try on the right wing. He was kind of ankle tapped and was short, but he managed to just reach out. 36-27. Pollard got a try. He ended up going through about 2 players. 43-27. Libbuck gets a try right at the end. Pollard with the assist. 48-27. And the Bulls get a try TMO'd right at the end, so it could have been 50. Lions are gone. They had kind of the best chance of going through of all the teams that weren't guaranteed. I suppose other than the Bulls. All they needed was a point. They will be very, very disappointed not to get it done. After all those finals, to now become a team that doesn't even make the playoffs shows, I guess, the effects of all those players they've been losing over the course of the recent seasons. In terms of this game, 553 run meters to 471. That's in favor of the Bulls. Lions, though, slightly more possession and territory. But once again, it's the Lions' defense which has let them down. 70% tackling is too low. That's going to allow teams to score almost 50 points against you. The Bulls were 76, which is not that much better, but it's still better. Bulls end up finishing 5th. The Lions 9th, 1 point behind the Highlanders. I'm wearing their kit because they are incredibly lucky to get through. They had, apart from the Waratahs, they had the lowest chance of going through. They needed a lot of things to go their way. They needed to get a bonus point win. They needed to make sure, I think, was it a Stormers and Sharks draw that might have affected them? But they also needed the Lions not to get a bonus point or win. And, everything managed to go their way. So the Highlanders get the joy of going to face the Crusaders, which is a pretty tough job, but it's still another week to play, whereas the Lions, they are done for the season, so we'll be very disappointed with that. So yeah, those were the 4 games. Disappointed Blues fans for sure. Disappointed Reds fans maybe not so much. It's the end of the season for them. Extremely disappointed Stormers fans. They probably have the worst of it, and Lions fans equally will be pretty gutted that they weren't able to get a bit closer than that. But yeah, you guys let me know your thoughts on these Saturday games, and I'll talk to you again soon. See you later.